New Orleans Talk Network. Listeners are as important as our guests. Join in on the conversation. 504-341-8255. The New Orleans Talk Network.
Talk Network. It's today's hottest topics with an added flair. You get ready because the conversation will be hot and better yet, mobile. Download the New Orleans Talk Network app available on Android, iPhone, iPad, and you can listen to us on the web at www.neworleanstalknetwork.com. Write down our talk line at 504-341-TALK. That's 504-341-8255. Interactive and worldwide. That's what we are. Join in on the real conversation and tell a friend about the New Orleans Talk Network.
Hi, I'm Sheriff Joe Lapinto, and you are watching the New Orleans Talk Network.
It gives you better conversation about your quality of life.
Let everyone know you listen to
the New Orleans Talk Network.
Good morning. This is New Orleans Talk Network. Brother Al Mims, host, with Cameron Alexander Mims, my co-host and special guest. And this is one of our really special shows that we dedicated it to the memory of Paul Bouye, the manager of a station that I grew up listening to, WBOK. And we had some shootings, a shooting, but there were shootings in this metropolitan area, but one especially in the corner of Louisiana Avenue in South Claiborne, and it's been on everybody's mind. It shouldn't have happened, and we should not give it a pass. There's a lot going on in our community, and we need to address the violence, because we cannot live. If we're gonna live by it, we sure gonna die by it. With that said, I would like for you to, those who want to chime in, can call New Orleans Talk Network, Houses That Fight Back. Brother Al Mims, it's 563-999-1808. 563-999-1808. And tell us what you think about some of the circumstances, or even, it may not be the subject matter, but what you think about what's going on in our community as a whole. And not only what's going on, just talking about it, but what solutions. We want to hear from you to offer up some solutions. And with that said, I want to thank my son, Cameron Alexander Mims, for being my guest. And he asked me the other day, he said, Daddy, I want to address some problems in the community, and everybody ain't gonna like what I say, because that means that you got to stop doing, and that sounds familiar. I said, it sounds like somebody said that for the last umpteen years. But with all that said, I agree with him. I'm gonna first update everybody that Saturday night around 8 o'clock, 7:30, corner of Louisiana Avenue and South Claiborne, two hooded individuals, listen to that. It's 80 degrees, 85 degrees at 8 o'clock at night, and they got hoods on their head. and they targeted a group of maybe 10, 15 people. Were at the daiquiri shop or outside the daiquiri shop, and they pulled guns. They said one had an automatic gun, and it must have been something like an AK-47, a rifle, or a high-powered rifle. There were numerous people shot. And let me be clear that I said 95% of the people who were shot were innocent bystanders. They just happened to be there. And that's what the problem is. I've spoken to many other people, the law enforcement, saying that the murder rate is down, but the shootings are up. So is that the shooters, are they bad shots? So what I'm saying is you don't have to be doing anything. You may get shot just because the guy can't shoot. So with that said, I want to thank Cameron for being here. Cameron Alexander Mims, my co-host and special guest. You've been on the show before, and basically, I know that, the listening audience will say, yeah, Brother Mims talking about the same thing. 9 out of 10 times he's been talking about it. Well, why do you think we doing this, Cameron?
Because nobody's learning anything.
You want to expunge on that?
They just keep doing the same old thing. Crime looks like it'll never stop, so why should I? Why should we stop doing what we're doing? Crime will never stop. And
it's like they're feeding off our families, our local, the people in our neighborhood seem to be the victims and the perpetrators. Am I right?
Right.
So we talk about solutions. So what's your opinion? What you think? How should we handle this?
It starts at home. Get the parents. It starts at home. Parents, guardians, older siblings, whoever it may be, who's influencing them. It starts somewhere. It has to start at the house.
Oh, well, Cameron, but you got to understand that some of these kids, they don't have fathers, and
that's where mentorship programs come in at. There's too many mentor programmings around the city, around this country, where kids can't say, "I don't have nobody to look up to." Look, if the kid in the street could look up to a football player or a basketball player or a baseball player and say, "That's my idol, that's my role model," then I'm pretty sure that kids out here today, somebody at least is influencing them in one way or another. Whether it's LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, whoever it may be, even for their famous rappers, somebody is influencing them one way or another.
And also, I want to say this, talk about some of the ills and some of the effects of what's going on in our community. I read earlier this week on the news, and I read in the paper where they said the New Orleans public school system is doing better now. And I'm trying to figure out where that comes from. They fired 7,000 teachers, and the charter schools, they're applying for schools, and when it don't work, they apply again under another name. So what's really going on, Cameron? When you were in school, you've been out about 5 years from public school system. What is the difference from now and from where you were in school?
Well, back then, we actually had parents, and not saying that all parents don't care, but back then we actually had a collection and group of parents that actually cared, that actually would come to school board meetings, that would come to the city council whenever it dealt with public schools. And the problem is now we have too many charter schools that the so-called state is taking over, and they're doing poorer than what the public schools that they used to be was. My old alma mater, Eleanor McMain, is now a charter school, and since I've been back there, I visited her twice, and the kids are running rapid. Back then,
no discipline?
No discipline. Back then, we couldn't have our cell phones out in class. Now kids are walking around the hallways, walking in class with their cell phones on, listening to music or whatever. And, I don't see no structure, how should I say, there's no leadership, there is no rule grounds, no nothing at the schools nowadays. And this morning I watched on the news where they said that know that the Louisiana public schools are ranked the worst in the country.
50 of 51.
It was 50 out of 51.
Yeah.
And we ranked the lowest. Whichever way you want to look at it, Louisiana public schools ranked the worst. And to be honest with you, I wasn't surprised about that. Seeing as how they want to, schools that used to get A's and B's on their grades now they're coming out with C's and D's and F's, and that shouldn't have happened because the structure that was in place years ago now is starting to change. And the problem also is that not that it's racism, but you firing all these black teachers who's been there for X amount of years, 20, 30, 40, 50 years almost. So a lot of them, you're firing all these faculty members, all these staff members, and you bringing in all of these newcomers and these young people, and
not too much older than the students. Huh?
Right, they're not too much older, and majority of them, and I hate to say it, majority of them are white. Honestly, they're white, and
Ouch.
they're coming down here and they're teaching in inner city schools where these kids are not going to listen to them. And when you bring a teacher like that that's new in here, that's young, and that is white, in front of a whole entire class that is nothing but blacks, African Americans, these kids look at it and they say, well, I don't want to listen to this person. What this person got to tell me? They don't know nothing about me. They don't know my history or anything like that. That's what I've always stated, where I work at. I said, how can you bring a white teacher in front of me and explain, and they give a history lesson, they explain to me, oh, this is how what really happened. This is how it really went down. When the students when they really know about it, they say, wait a minute, that didn't happen like that. I'm sorry, but your book doesn't tell everything that really went down. And then they get mad, and half of them, by the end of the semester or whatever, a lot of these new teachers, they quit and go back to their hometown or whatever because they feel the pressure is too much for them. They can't handle it.
Well, I think that what you may want to call it, I've seen most of the discussions been some of the youngsters teach for America. And if they stay a little while, a certain time, they can get their tuition or their scholarships or whatever can be repaid to the state. They can they can put it away. But our children are being used as guinea pigs in test tube. Cameron, I have Woodson. It's called Kemp, and I call it Kids in Parish Prison. But it's Carter G. Woodson, and they call it Kemp. I've been, we stay 2 blocks from there, and I've been invited. I've been there about 3 or 4 times in the last several years. Myself and some other ministers and others about coming there for Black History Week, and close your eyes and tell me what you see.
Nothing.
We haven't been invited. Why is that? What's going on?
Because they don't want to publicize that black people know what we're talking about, because we've been there, we lived there for years. We know what's going on. We know what the real problems are. We know how to get a handle on our kids. You can't tell me that back then, I'll give you a little history lesson. Back then, during the Civil Rights Movement and everything, and even before that, back during, slavery days, black people, us, black women, would actually house sit and be caretakers and babysitters for white kids.
Okay.
When the parents was out of work or whatever, they would be the maids, the cooks and everything, because they knew that they could trust us. They knew that they could trust their children with us.
They let us take care of their children.
Exactly.
Your grandmother did that.
And even to this day, there are still some services where you have black women who are, nannies and maids and household guests and all that, the caretakers, and they do a better job at taking care of the white people's kids than they do.
Yeah. Let me see. We got a caller. Is that Terry? Good morning. We may be having technical difficulty. Terry, can you hear me? Well, we have some technical difficulty. Terry, if you're listening, try to get back to problem. Cameron, as you were saying, you know, I have a friend named Mike, and I talked to him last night. He's in Jefferson Parish, and guess what? He got some problems. And guess what? He white. He got problems with his grandchildren, with his amp and some of the leadership in Jefferson Parish school system. You know what? What I learned is, Cameron, there's politics all over.
Yeah, you can't escape it. I mean, there's politics in school systems, politics in businesses, politics in basically everything you do.
Yeah, well, and that's the problem. And you know, you and I talked about it when we were getting dressed this morning. That you know, I observed when you were in school on every level, from your elementary, well, really, from when you were in nursery school. Your mother and I was involved with the staff and the school, and I don't see many mothers or parents. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what's happening. I don't want to say they don't care, but some of that heading that direction, Cameron, because you know I see parents. You know, they ain't never been to school to see about their children when they have meetings. Because I see the cars parked around our house, and we stay 2 blocks from several schools, and the parents, I don't ever see them walk to the school or go there to address a concern. You know, I don't. We always say when you were in school, we never waited till the problem. When there was a problem presented itself, we came, huh?
Right.
You
I
know,
mean, it
so
all goes back to parent involvement. I mean, in the schools. Reason why our schools are failing, like I said, is not because of there's a few there's a few good parents out there, but you know, majority of them, they don't get involved. They don't know what's going on with their child's school or whatever. You know, when I say that schools that used to get A's and B's on their grades, and now the school comes back and the report says that they're getting C's and D's, well, that's a problem right there. And you know, it needs to start. You know, at home, parents need to say, you know, what are you teaching my kid? You know, when we got
curriculum.
when we had, you know, when we look back and we had textbooks that that outdated for almost nearly 15, 20 years.
Stuck together.
With old mildew, rundown books with mold on it, and there is no, the classrooms haven't been updated. You got holes in the walls and the ceilings, leaks everywhere.
Broken windows.
And you're teaching these kids in an environment that's unsafe for them. Like I said, outdated books, no updated materials, no core curriculum. Where's the focus at? The focus is not on the kids anymore. It's all about money and what people can line in their pockets with. School board meetings right now are a joke today. It's a joke because you go there to voice your opinions, and as soon as you say something that they don't agree with, they ready to cut you off and say thank you for your time is up or whatever.
Cameron, let me say this to you. You remember when your dad got a call and they had the phone call about the charter school being application for charter school a couple years ago? But like you say, your school, your former alma mater, McMain is a charter school. But when I found out, we went to the meeting. I went to the meeting, and it was a done deal. I saw black men who looked like me, who were supposed to be taking charge of the school system, but they had already sold
out.
So it was a done deal. They sold out to the charter. When we came there, and they had some parents, several parents that were there with me, it was already a done deal. So I got a problem with some of the with Terry. Henderson, the superintendent, and some of the his staff members, because what are they doing? So let me say this if we can. If we got Terry, Brother Terry, on the line.
Yeah, I'm on the line. We tried to do the video thing, but we had some technical difficulties with that.
That's all right, Terry. Look, bro, we know what you look like, bro. We appreciate you. Hey, man, listen, bro. We got to do the work any kind of weather. bro, we don't get no pass. Well, look, you heard what we were talking about, Terry.
Yeah.
We talking about some of the schools, and that's some of the problems with the violence. Children who have no future and no hope. A hopeless child is a dangerous child. Would you agree, bro?
Well, let me first of all thank Brother Cameron for coming in this morning. It's always good to have the younger generation give us the insight on how these what their views are. So I want to thank the brother for stepping up and coming in and giving his input about what's going on in the city of New Orleans. Also, I want to thank you, Brother Mims, for continuing to do this show. Definitely, education is directly contribute to the violence in the city of New Orleans. Also, poverty directly contributes to the violence in the city of New Orleans. So those two things combined, and I heard y'all give out an interesting stat earlier about the public school system being ranked 50 out of 51.
That's what I was going to say.
That is horrible, man. I mean, there's no hope with that. So I believe in things happening in 10 years, generations. So right now we losing this generation to lack of education or lack of resources in our community. And it'll take another 10 years to get the next wave of youth on the right track.
And
it starts when these people are kids, you know what I'm saying? It starts right there, right when they're children. So resources and education is the number one aspect we can have in our communities to deter crime away from our communities.
And Terry, can I say something, and you can chime in, or Cameron can put their opinion. I'm saying, when I say New Orleans, I'm talking about the New Orleans, because New Orleans is the Mecca. Everything around New Orleans, if New Orleans dies, everybody else is going to die. Am I right?
Correct.
Well, listen, man, you know what took me by, it blew me away. Last week, on Manhattan Boulevard, this brother shot his wife. He was on the hood of the car. He shot his wife twice in the head, and his 4 children was in the car. Man, that blew me away, Terry.
I actually know the young lady family. My condolences go out to her family. I didn't know the gentleman, but the young lady, she was a well-rounded young lady. She was very intelligent, very beautiful young lady. She didn't deserve to lose her life in that manner. We just got to be conscious of who we allow to come in our lives.
Come on.
From what I understand, the young man had a history already. So I know our women give a lot of men chances, but sometimes you just gotta be conscious of who you letting in your life. That was very.
See, Terry,
I'm upset. Listen,
you gonna make some kids. You gonna make some dudes mad.
I'm just, whereas I'm upset because there is no outrage coming from the community. If it was a cop that killed, an African American in a manner like that, it would be protesting going on right now. It would be a lot of things happening in the community. Outrage. There is no outrage.
Terry, those children, he took those children mother from him. Those children gonna have issues for the rest of their life, man.
There's just not a pouring outcry right now for the gun violence that we're going through these last couple of weeks. I'm expecting the community to really, come out and really make a stance against this, like we see all over the nation when there's police officer shootings. But there's a lack of that in our community right now. So for somebody to do that in broad daylight, and then what happened Saturday night is really disappointing.
Let me ask you, Terry, would you tell me why you think that there's no outrage? Like you said, I've seen the police shootings on Jefferson Parish and Orleans and other parishes. It was a police shooting, even if it was justifiable, so because there are some are justifiable. But what do you think? Why do you think there's no outrage, no protest, nobody making? Hey, bro, I've been vocal about it because he slaughtered this woman. I wish he would have shot himself, or that car would have ran over. He would have slid off the hood of the car, and the car could have ran over him, bro, because he done left an impression on those children that they're going to have to live with the rest of their life. So going back to the first thing is, why is it that, Terry, your opinion, and I asked Cameron, but your opinion, my brother, why is it there's no outrage, no protest?
That's an excellent question, Brother Mims. If I just go back a little bit, we seen this happen last year where a young man killed a young lady, and he also killed a police officer in the process of doing so, and then had the whole entire city in gridlock traffic
on the bridge
because he decided to stay on top of the bridge for
yeah,
a couple of hours, pretty much the whole day. I'm gonna answer that question two ways. First, I want to say that there's a lack of mental facilities in the city of New Orleans, so a lot of these people who are committing these crimes, not trying to make excuses for them, but there's some kind of mental disorder with a lot of these young men that's growing up in the city, in Jefferson and in Orleans, and with the lack of the mental facilities, they can't get the proper help. But to answer the question of why there's a lack of outrage, I'm gonna just have to be straight up. There's a lack of interest in what happens in our community with us, meaning African Americans. There's a lack of interest there. The priorities are not high when it comes to the violence with black on black crime,
Terry, listen
race
to me.
on race crime in the community.
The shooting that happened Saturday night, it was a stone throw away from my house, about 5 blocks from my house. A young lady, and here it is, Terry, again. A mother was taken. She had a 5-year-old child, good daughter, from Houston, Texas. She was here from visiting. That baby is motherless today. And I saw a mother who had a twin son. The young man was just getting out of the car to go to the daiquiri shop to get him a daiquiri. He was with somebody, and they stopped, and he was a twin. And you should have heard that mama crying and Terry, you start locking in like, if I woulda, coulda. If he just woulda not, I say that about my family. My homicide that devastated my family. My daddy was killed. Maybe if I didn't go this, if I did this and been with my daddy that night on the 19th of September 1987, he wouldn't be. But you know what, bro? We always try to second guess, but what's going to happen is going to happen. But everything, Terry, as you saying is, usism, we can do better. We have to do better. It's on us.
But I think I honestly believe that because there's a lack of hope for our community, that's why people are not outraged.
Hopeless, and if our young people are hopeless, Terry, and then Cameron has said that many times, that's a danger. When a child don't see no light, don't see no hope, and people don't give them no encouragement, that child is dangerous. Listen, Terry, hold on, my listening audience. We're gonna take our first break. We'll be back with you. Hold that thought. This is Brother Al Mims, Hostage Fight Back with Terry and Cameron Alexander Mims.
Oh, how the time flies. What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Dr. Rhonda M. Lawson. And can you believe that it has been 1 year since Horizons with Meet the World Image Solutions hit your airwaves? We have interviewed authors, entrepreneurs, playwrights, musicians, and everyone in between, all to bring you the best in literary conversation. And we plan to do it again this year, but only better. So join us right here in the Literary Lounge each Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on the New Orleans Talk Network.
Listen up. Your customers, our listeners, could be hearing about your business right now. Yeah, right now. Don't miss out on the opportunity to advertise with NewOrleansTalkNetwork.com. Call our business department today at 504-475-4793 to hear about our great rates. NewOrleansTalkNetwork.com. We provide the people, you provide the business.
Are you looking for a home to live stream your next event? Give us a call here at Bethesda Community Event Center, the only place on the Gulf Coast that can host and broadcast live your wedding reception, your baby shower, business seminar, and any other special event. Give us a call at 504-708-9454 for more details.
Conversation about your quality of life.
Let everyone know you listen to
The New Orleans Talk Network.
This is Brother Al Mims, Hostages That Fight Back, with my co-host and special guest, my son, Cameron Alexander Mims. We're talking to Terry, my brother in Christ, about some problems that persist. It goes down and it comes up. You know, Terry, I want to say something to you, and I want you to expunge on it. The murder rate in Jefferson Parish and New Orleans and surrounding parishes is really down, but the shootings are up. What I'm trying to say is, Terry, is that the guys who, the bad guys or the crazy guys or whatever they want, they call them, are they bad shots or what? You know, because more people getting shot, but less people are getting killed. What's going on with that?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. People don't know how to shoot, you know, so they missing vital parts on body parts.
Yes.
And they may be saving more lives, you know, at these hospitals. I know that the NOPD had to increase the response times.
Yes.
So I think by increasing their response times, you know, they're able to get people into the hospitals quicker and save more lives. You know, and I think, you know, with a lot of the what they call what Soldier Slim call them, wild gunfire.
Yeah, yeah.
So they a lot of people don't know how to shoot, so they got getting shot in the leg and the back and stuff like that. People are just not dying. But if gun violence is rising but the murder rate is down, I don't think that's something to brag on.
Yes.
And I hear both the chief of New Orleans and the sheriff of Jefferson Parish bragging on these things, like, oh, the murder rate's down, but shootings are high. You know, so if people don't get shot, then, you know, they don't die from gun violence. And let's not forget that everybody doesn't die from gun violence. Well, you know, you got people that's you know, getting stabbed, dying in you know, physical. There's more than one way to skin that cat.
And I want to say that
I don't know what they're talking about when they say the murder rate is down, but gun rate, the gun violence is.
Well, the murder, I don't think. I think
the crime rate is up.
They're talking about the murder rate on gun violence because, Terry, I want you to know they have found bodies. They say it was 2 women in Algiers, and they were burned. And when they put the fire out, they found out they had 2 bodies in there, and they said that the characteristics looked like 2 women. But they in New Orleans East become the dumping grounds. And, you know, people being stabbed, people being knocked out, people being strangled. You know, and let me say this, murder is murder, right, Terry? We just can't talk about gun violence, but because,
exactly.
and maybe some of my listening audience may call in and may be angry with me, but I'll say, Terry, that we have a hatred, not all of us here, but as a whole, what I've seen as far as the violence, if they didn't have guns, Terry, we'll be trying to strangle each other, chop each other, beat each other with hammers, nails, or with bricks, bro. Because let's be you know. Come on.
Let's look at it this way. It's African Americans using the guns in a lot of these gun crimes that's happening. It's not Caucasians. It's not Hispanics. It's not any other race. It's African Americans using these guns in gun violence in the inner city communities. So that is a stat that is directly results into our community. I don't hear about this happening in the other communities. So when it comes down to the gun violence, we could just chalk this up to blacks. You know what I'm saying? Now, murder rate is down when it comes to gun violence, but the actual shootings is up. That's a fundamental problem to me, and it's not nothing to really be, holding your hat on, Chief Harrison. So this has happened almost every year. We had mass shootings in New Orleans since the one that happened on Mother's Day. We done had Mother's Day mass shootings. We done had second line mass shootings. We done had mass shootings in playgrounds. We done had mass shootings just Saturday.
You covered everything.
This is an epidemic. This is an epidemic, right now. We have to chalk it up to us. We have to figure out a way. We can't sit back and wait for the chief of police or the politicians to figure this out for us.
They're not
it's
coming.
Our community leaders, our community pastors that have to step up and say, we got to identify the men that's in the communities, that to come out here in the communities to help put together strategic plans to get the guns out of the community.
And Terry and Cameron, he been my brother's been around violence all his life, and it's sad, and that Terry, I done seen one gun, and I went to murder trials, one gun has been passed around in the neighborhood, 22 or 38, and it got about 7, 8 murders on it. They wind up when they find that gun, when they finally examine that gun, the ballistics show that gun has been handed around, armed robbery, drive-bys, and and you can get a gun as easy as you can get a hamburger, Terry.
Yes, correct. I mean, they call them throwaways. A lot of these cats, they pass around throwaways. They just, shotguns with each other. These guns start accumulating bodies on them and stuff like that. And that's what they do. They, listen. If a good friend of yours is in a situation with some kind of hot head in the community, and he comes to you and he says, "Hey man, look, I got into it with this guy. I need me a gun." 9 times out of 10, as a friend, you're going to give him a gun to help protect yourself. So that is the typical route we take in our communities when we have a problem. We go get a gun.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? There's 2 reasons. You want to protect yourself at all times, and you think that's the way to solve your problems.
Well, Terry, there was several years ago. Well, it was about really 10. There was a kid in the city of New Orleans. He got into it with one of his rivals, and he told his mom about it, and she said, "Go handle your business." She gave him a 38 to go handle his business. He went out there and shot the boy in the head, and that made national news. As a matter of fact, I got that clipping. The next time, next week, if God say, I'll bring it that clipping. And how you think about that, bro? What I'm trying to say is, don't you think that we still got parenting? Parenting is what we do with our children when they're young. What I see, Terry, is some parents are trying to be their children's best friend, and I see women trying to be their sons, like that's their brother. I say that's your son. And sometimes in the men, I see the brothers walk around. You can't tell the daddy from the sons because, they smoking weed and they, bruh. My son, and I commend him for this. That since he was a baby, and he's 23 years old, and I'm 65. Yes sir, no sir, and I always joke about Terry that he had an instructor that was probably about 25, and he was about 17, and he told Cameron, he said, "Cameron, you're not too much older than me, son, and you can call me by my first name, okay?" He said, "Yes, sir." He said, "No, you don't have to call me yes, sir." He said, "Yes, sir." So what
listen,
I was trying to say
you don't come off as a drill sergeant to me, Brother Mims. Cameron is a well-rounded young man. You did an excellent job at raising him, and as we both know, I'm a parent. Parenting never stops. We never want to discipline our kids.
Come on.
But I can tell that Cameron is a very respectful young man, and I think it came directly from his parenting and the community of parenting that he had surrounding around him. and that's how we create productive citizens in our communities by being obedient as parents, and also having a good community of parents around our kids.
Well, Terry, he also helped me be a better parent because if I, and I hear people saying, well, I say, hey man, watch what you say around your child. They just got to know that I got to do that. I say, man, look, you can't say anything around the children and then tell them, correct them. If you doing it, you know, what goes around, come around. So Terry, I see you as a father, and you're a good father, bro. And I see you, bro, you care about our community. Now, let me tell you something, bro. Everybody don't want to hear what we got to say. You know, we got the solutions, but you got to work it, Terry. They don't want to work it. They want to stay where they at. Am I right?
You're absolutely right. I have two solutions. I mean, we could take a diplomatic approach or we could take a vigilante approach. Whichever one you want to do, let's roll with it because, look, I honestly feel like this, you know, there's a fear factor in our communities.
Come on.
This is why there's two reasons why we don't cooperate with the police. One, we don't trust them, and two, there's a fear factor. Because of the fear factor, and I'm not going to open up the can of worms on why the black community doesn't trust the police because that's history. But when it comes to that fear factor, when you put fear into a community, that community may not respect the people who are putting the fear in the community, but they fear the people. They fear what the people can do to them. But there's strength in numbers. You hear that term a lot. There's strength in numbers. And yesterday on Church Without Walls, I said, listen, you know, maybe we need to start taking a vigilante approach to some of these situations that's going on in our community. Some of these situations where we know the police is going to be a complicated situation for the police to take care of. And you know what I'm talking about, Brother Mims and Cameron. There are some young men in our communities that need to be dealt with. And, you know, the police can't deal with them like we'll deal with them.
Terry,
as far as the vigilante approach.
I spoke on another radio show one time about last year, and it was so much going on. I told the host, it was Oliver Thomas. I said, Oliver, I'm going to say this. I got some family members I've helped, and I served on the pro board 2 terms, 8 years, 2 governors. I said, they say they made a mistake, and I got them some probation, I got them this and this, and I showed them who to stay away from, and everything I told them not to do, Terry, they did it. And then, and so what I'm trying to say, it wasn't racism. It was they wanted to do this, and Terry, there are some people in our community, you know, the community would be better and safer if they in jail, bro. And I'll say that again now. See, bro, I see some brothers walking around my neighborhood. They want to take, they don't want to ask, they want to take, they want to terrorize. Say, bro, and let me tell you something. Most of the killings I said, and I mean this, about it may be 7 out of 10. The killings are about foolishness. I don't like the way you looked at me. You're disrespecting me, so I gotta handle my business. So, bro, until we show our children, because I learned from my father. My daddy wasn't an educated man. Cameron never knew his grandfather. He was killed like 12 years before he was born. But my father had a handshake, Terry. He had a word. And I don't see what I see, bro, I question some of the, you know, the spirituality and the sincerity, because some of these brothers, they don't have a clue who they can trust.
Well, I think one of the first steps to taking the community back from, you know, the drug dealers or the violent offenders in the community is we have to kick back up neighborhood watch. And if we have to go all the way up to Baton Rouge and change some legislation for our communities to benefit our communities in the neighborhood watch programs, then that's something we're going to have to do. We'll get our pastors together and we'll go up there collectively and we'll get whatever we need for our communities to kick off neighborhood watches. And with the community organizations, get volunteers to ride around and arm our neighborhood watch people. Make sure that they arm. Just like in the Florida situation with George Zimmerman.
Yes.
He was a part of the neighborhood watch. He was able to.
And that's not said enough. They need to say that more, because and I'm gonna say this, Terry, why is it that things that work in the past, and you know, I don't have to, you know, there's a whole list of things that was good for our neighborhoods. Why did it stop? Why did it stop? Why did they run out of money? They discontinued.
They stopped because whenever something benefits African Americans, all of a sudden it stops, and that's a pattern. We have to catch on to that and not allow that to continue to keep happening. So everything that benefits us, it comes to a complete stop eventually. But we allow it to come to it doesn't. Let me rephrase that. It doesn't come to a complete stop overnight.
Okay.
They take a 10-year plan and apply it to our communities, and then they use the next generation and they strip that from the generation, so the generation doesn't really care about it. When I grew up, neighborhood watches were very they were a thing in our neighborhood. They had the warning signs, neighborhood watch on almost all corners. I don't see that up no more. They actually pulled the signs up and took the signs away.
They sure did. They sure did.
Well, so there we have it. But the youth doesn't really carry over traditions of what works in our community.
Well,
you know.
Well, let me ask Cameron. Cameron, what you think?
I mean, I agree with Brother Terry. Like he said, you know, it doesn't happen overnight. And, it starts at home with the parents. You know, when kids see their parents doing certain things, you know, it becomes a habit. They, you know, it's like the blind leading the blind. They're going to follow whatever the parents doing. So they see the parents, you know, going to work, you know, brushing their teeth, doing things that they have to do. Then the kid's going to catch on. If they see the parent, you know, cussing and saying what they're going to do, saying who they're going to get or whatever, the kid's going to grow up. And it's the mentality. They're going to have that mentality of, well, nobody can tell me what to do because, you know, I saw my mom or I saw my dad and they were able to do this and do that. And it's like, well, ain't nobody going to tell me nothing because, you know, my parents got away with it, so I can do the same thing.
And Terry, with that said, I know you well, man, and I see you and you got morals and values and things, and you love your children, but you're not their friend now. I've seen you correct them, protect them, encourage them, but you also the word that people don't discipline, punish, and that goes with parenting. Am I right?
Yes, sir. I mean, Brother Mims, I'm an obedient parent. I don't do certain things around my kids. I'm not perfect. You know what I'm saying? And I witness that a lot in my communities. A lot of parents are not obedient. They act the way they want to act in front of their kids.
Okay.
And these children pick up on it. Like Cameron, I will agree with Cameron just now. These kids mimic their parents. So if a parent isn't obedient, how we expect a child to be obedient? If a parent loses their cool and they just allow to come out their mouth whatever they want to come out their
temper
mouth,
tantrums,
then a child is going to act a certain way. I don't allow my girl or myself to talk about the kids' teachers in front of the kids.
Okay.
Because I don't want our kids developing a bias towards their teacher. I want him to respect his teacher. So if there's a problem, you cannot talk about this teacher in front of my child, in front of him. Don't do that. Because then he's going to go to school. His mother don't like you. So what you think the child going to think? You don't like him either.
Yes.
You know, but we do that too often, and I see that a lot. Like, if a parent has a problem with a teacher, they would display their frustration in front of their kids. So you think a child whose mind is still in development mode, how do you think they're going to respond to that? They don't have to respect you if my parents don't respect you.
Terry, I want to...
So that's a fundamental problem right there.
We got about 4 minutes left. Could you, with closing remarks, would you give us some quick... What our neighborhood need a dose of what to make some changes that we could see that make a difference? We need to recognize the us's and Brother Mims, like you always talk about on this show. We need to recognize the challenges that we face in our communities and attack them head on. And one of our number one challenges in our community is us. We are our own worst enemy in our community because, like, again, we tolerate too much and we're not outraged about enough. If we could get outraged about the police shootings, we need to be outraged about the crime element that's in our community as well. If we can march collectively throughout this country whenever a cop kills someone, then we need to do the same exact thing
whenever a citizen or individual kills somebody in our community, we need to have the same exact outrage and display that to the world and show them that we're not going to tolerate this in our communities anymore. And I honestly believe when we start doing that, then the higher ups are going to they're going to back us. But we need to display our frustration to the whole, not only to this country but to the world, if we expect for these political leaders and the spiritual leaders of our community to really go above and beyond to address the problems in our neighborhood.
And Cameron?
Well, like I said, I agree with Brother Terry. You know, they need to be more, more parents need to step up and be parents, actual parents, teach their kids morals and values, teach them, respect your elders, to respect the authorities, to show that you need to have self-control on your tempers, on your anger problems. And, like Brother Terry say, the problem is us, politics can't save us, militaries can't save us, police can't save us, all the higher ups can't save us. No one can save us from us but us.
Well, and with that said, we got about a minute left. I just want to close with saying that they got a home going for Paul Boyer. He was a good friend of mine, and he did a lot of things in the community to make a difference, Terry. And his home going is this morning, 11 o'clock, out in New Orleans East. And I want to say, Terry, I thank you for your input. You're always available. You're always there. You ain't afraid to speak your mind and tell the truth, speak truth to power. My only son, Cameron Alexander Mims, I thank him for being my host and a special guest. And I just want to thank the Lord for giving me an assignment. And Terry, I don't like some of the things that God wants me to do, but I'm going to be obedient to his will. And it's going to be a better world because we as men, Terry, do what we need to do. Is that all right, Terry?
That's all right with me, Brother Mims.
I love you, man. You have a great day. I'll see you
Love
next
y'all
week.
too, man. Thank y'all for having me on the show.
Thank you, bro. Peace.
All right.
It's Brother Mims speaking, Houses That Fight Back. We'll see you next week. God bless.